evening. My name is Admiral Paris, and this is Barbara Strategy. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the inaugural speech, the second inaugural speech that Donald Trump gave. Pick your team and stick with it. I don't think that we should allow dual citizenship. If you want to live in this country, you want to be a citizen, then be a citizen of this country. You cannot have a dual loyalty to any other country. There's a lot of countries that don't allow dual citizenships, and I think that we ought to follow that format. Anyway, let's move on.
America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made, and Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
I couldn't support President Trump even any more than that. I think that the Gulf of America is great, or the Gulf of the United States. I don't know. I'm sure there's a good history as to why we call it the Gulf of Mexico. I didn't look that up. I really don't care. I am 100% for, he didn't mention the Greenland thing, which I think is interesting, and I wouldn't be against us expanding our territory into, but like I said, I am an imperial guy. I'm an imperialist. I believe that we should be an empire. We don't have to be necessarily a conquering empire, but we need to send the message that, hey, you don't need to get in our way. Okay, we can do a deal, and we can make things happen that are beneficial for everybody, but don't get in our way. I believe in empire. I really do. And if we were to expand into Greenland, he didn't mention it again in Greenland, but the Panama Canal, now he talks about that, and I fully agree. I remember when Carter was president, and I was a teenager then, and this is my earliest memories of politics were, of course, Vietnam. I grew up in the Vietnam era and listening to the Vietnam thing, and then later on it became Watergate. Oh my God, Watergate was boring. And then we had the peanut president, Carter, and we went to see Carter when he came to Fort Worth down at the convention center, because at that time my father was a Democrat, and I sat just about 10 feet away from Carter as we had Kentucky Fried Chicken that night. And Carter then announced later on, after he became president, that he was going to give away the Panama Canal. And I didn't completely understand the dynamics of it then, because I was, again, a teenager. But I was immediately thinking, why would we do that? He talked about, before he got to the Panama Canal, he talks about McKinley. McKinley was a really great president. McKinley was, of course, he was assassinated in September of 1901 up in the Northeast. He was at the Temple of Music when he was assassinated. And he was a great president. He was neither for empire or for republic. He was an imperialist, but he was good either way. He wasn't opposed to the Spanish-American War, but he wasn't opposed to it, but he wasn't necessarily for it, but then he went along with it. After he was assassinated, then Theodore Roosevelt became president of the United States. And Theodore Roosevelt, the story behind the Panama Canal is worth getting into. It really is. I'm not going to get into it right now, but we did build the Panama Canal exactly as what Trump says. Yes, we should claim we should never have given up the Panama Canal. We shouldn't have signed a 100-year lease. We should have said this is ours permanently. It's in accordance with our national security. Real briefly, let me just say this about the Panama Canal and why it was so important. It was so important to the Monroe Doctrine And that is that, and this was part of the reason we got into the Spanish-American War, we didn't necessarily need to take over Cuba, although I think we probably should have, but I know why we didn't. But we needed to free Cuba up from European entanglements, which meant we needed to break it away from Spain. They were already in a civil war with Spain, and it was a good time for us to tip the balance, as we usually do in these wars. That's why we've won a lot of the wars. We go in and we tip the balance, like in World War I or World War II. But in the Spanish-American War, we tipped the balance, and Spain was just about bankrupt anyway. I mean, they were barely hanging on to Cuba. But when we took Cuba, we freed up because we needed the Gulf of Mexico to be free of any foreign entanglements other than some little islands that were owned by England and some by France. We needed to control the Gulf because we needed to build that canal, because we needed our Navy ships to go from California to New York, and we needed to not go around Cape Horn. Cape Horn was a long and dangerous journey, especially in the days of we still had sailing ships. And so we really couldn't build a strong Navy and protect both coasts, because, we could protect the eastern coast, but then to send our Navy ships all the way around Cape Horn and back up, it's a pain in the ass. It took a long time. It was costly, and it just wasn't realistic. Yes, we did, but, the point is that we needed what was then called the Isthmus Canal, and it became the Panama Canal, and we built it for our national security. And the same reasoning exists today that existed in 1898 when we entered into the Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War was really about not just taking new territory in the Philippines, but it was also about securing the Gulf of Mexico, or, as Trump says, the Gulf of the United States. So yes, the whole Panama Canal thing is going to be a great thing.
Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
All right, now we're rounding up the speech and it's towards the end, and there's a lot packed into that, but let's just sum it up to say that there is so many goodies in this, and the part that I love the most is he mentions manifest destiny.
And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts.
And I listened to Glenn Beck's take on this, and Glenn Beck is an idiot when it comes to this. He says, manifest destiny is wrong. This is where the United States went wrong, and they believed that it was their right to take these lands. Yes, it was our right to take those lands. It was our right. It was God's providence, God's intention for the United States to take everything from coast to coast. And then after we fulfilled our manifest destiny, then our expansion looked elsewhere. This is why after we had conquered the West, then it was time to turn to, as Theodore Roosevelt believed, it was time for us to turn to the Philippines, to the east. And that's where the Spanish-American War came in. The Spanish-American War, to me, is one of the most important wars. I mean, before you can study World War II or World War I or any of that, you have to look at the Spanish-American War. But Trump's mention of manifest destiny is huge, huge.
And we will pursue our manifest destiny.
He didn't say it with a lot of zeal, but the words, the speech was really, really huge. He talks about the fact that a healthier America. I wish he'd drawn into that a little bit more, and that we need to encourage America. We need a leadership position from the White House, and we need our Congress, but mostly the White House. We need them to encourage us to be a healthier nation. We need to eat better. We need to exercise more. We need to concentrate our efforts and get our youth needs to stop becoming a bunch of fat asses. We need to decrease the amount of fast food that we eat in this country. And I know he's not going to go up against them because a lot of the Republican donors are fast food companies. But that stuff is not good for us. None of that is good for us. Big Pharma does not want us to be healthy. Big Pharma, because if we're healthy, we don't need to take medicine. If we don't need medicine, then Big Pharma loses, they lose dividends. They lose quarterly reports that are positive. So Big Pharma does not want a healthy America. Fast food industry doesn't want a healthy America because all of that works against that. But he talks about that. This is where I'm hoping that he puts Kennedy in. I'm hoping Kennedy becomes part of the administration, and I'm hoping that Kennedy can fulfill a lot of the things that he promised. And then to sum it all up, the idea of planting the stars and bars on Mars. And now what's really huge about that, and I want to isolate that one last little statement, plant the stars and stripes on planet Mars. Always in the past of our space exploration, it's always been about mankind, Like Neil Armstrong said, it's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. And it's always been about mankind going into space. I mean, the whole Star Trek thing is go where no man has gone before and all that. I know they changed it to no person. It's crap. It should be man. It's a man's world, period. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that. Again, Hatley will tell me I'm getting sidetracked. The bottom line here is that this is a paradigm shift. This is a huge paradigm shift in going from talking about mankind going and science going to Mars and planting our flag on Mars. This is part of the imperialism of the future, and it's really grandiose, and it goes way beyond Trump's administration and Trump's life even. I mean, but it opens the gateway to the future. That's something that we really, really should be excited about, even things that we're not even going to live long enough to see. I'm the last baby boomer, and I doubt seriously I'll live long enough to see man stand on Mars. But the idea, the concept of planting the American flag on Mars and saying, hell, I think we ought to take the whole damn planet and just declare the whole thing ours. And the rest of the world doesn't like it, screw you. We're the American empire. We'll do whatever we damn well please. That's my attitude.